Hey everybody, this is The Inevitable Church. My name is Min-Soo Choi. I'm a Doctor of Ministry student at Portland Seminary, focusing on semiotics and future studies. So glad to be with you. Today is Saturday, September 18th, and this is vlog number 2. And I'm having so much fun thinking and planning out some of these vlogs that initially I had them as kind of like once a week kind of updates, but I'm gonna try to do them as frequently as possible. Like on nights where I have a little bit of free time, I might just throw up a vlog and just tell you what I've been working on and where I'm headed with this channel. This week was a particularly hard week just because our whole family was sick, and whenever there's sickness, life happens, and the plans that you've made don't necessarily work out the way that you intended. I wanted to get a lot more work done. I wanted to do a lot more writing than I did this week. I was able to begin the week with vlog number 1, and that was kind of just like just a fire hose of information. I just wanted to talk about everything and the totality of this project. And I realized that, man, it was a long vlog. That vlog was actually 35 minutes, and I was able to squeeze it and condense it into 15 minutes, and yet it still felt very unfocused. And so my goal is to be a little bit more concise and to make these a little bit shorter in length so that they're friendly and worth viewing to all of you. So there are 2 videos that I'm working on. The first one is what is Christian semiotics, just doing a very brief dive into the world of semiotics as a discipline, and also introducing John 2 as a case study for semiotics hermeneutics, basically. And I wanted to make that video because it'll be like a foundational video to understand the rest of the channel and all the content that's going to be on this channel. And the second video that I want to make is the continuation of the series that I started off with. The first video that I put on this channel, it was episode 1. Episode 2 is about Martin Luther and the advent of the movable printing press in Europe, and how that invention basically slowly and then rapidly affected how societies learn, form, build relationships, pretty much do everything. And so we see the movable printing press as the precursor to the Protestant Reformation, as well as the scientific revolution and beyond. So we're going to be looking at that, and then we're going to try to make some parallels to our modern context. So those are the 2 videos that I'm working on, scripting them out, storyboarding them. These are going to be a little bit more intricate, a little bit more complex to shoot. I'm going to try to have transitions and have multiple locations for them, and so that's on my mind right now, as well as just kind of like concepts and ideas and current events that are just coming up. Some of these are just not planned, and some of these are going to be just like, improv and just kind of turning on the camera and then just playing through some of these things. A lot of these videos are meant to be processing and raw and kind of developing over time. And it's the reason why I want to do these vlogs, because you're going to get the behind the scenes, you're going to get the uncut, the raw in these things. I don't want to do a lot of editing with these types of videos. I just kind of want to put them out there with all of their imperfections and maybe errors. And so I'm okay with that, because I'm always in that mode of learning and being open-minded and being open to like correction and feedback. That's part of the reason why I wanted to make these vlogs, to connect with you guys, get your thoughts. Lastly, I just want to touch on the NPO statement that I briefly mentioned in vlog number 1. I figured this would be a great video to just reiterate how that functions in the grand scheme of this project. The NPO statement is what our program at Portland Seminary uses as kind of like the thesis statement. It basically outlines what the focus is of my project dissertation. And I did read it in the first episode, but I want to read it again and kind of just break it down just for a little bit, and then end it with kind of last thoughts about moving forward into next week. This is the NPO statement. The modern network revolution has given rise to a generation of digital natives, making a significant number of models of church and ministry that have formed in the past ineffective and outdated. And so it's also creating a need for new types of ministries, innovations in how we think about church, faith, and culture. And we'll also need, again, as we always do over generations, recontextualization of historically grounded biblical teachings for a digital social landscape. And the three big ideas in my NPO is that we're starting off with this social phenomenon called a network revolution. A network revolution is where civilization adopts a brand new medium for their primary way of communicating and interacting with each other and learning and all those things. We saw it very, very clearly 500 years ago when Europe went from an oral culture, a culture of speech and just and not having a lot of books and literature, to a culture where print was mass produced. Books became something that you could own. The average person could have their own library now, things like that. But it also decentralized the power of information. And so it created this conflict between the church, which was the dominant institution of the time, and the rest of society. And so you can imagine the church felt very threatened by this new technology, even going so far as to say books were a product of the devil. Books would taint and distort man and his soul. And what we eventually saw was a negative response in the form of book burnings, books censors, really persecuting people like Martin Luther, and just having a very, very negative reaction to this idea that people could connect directly to God, could learn about the universe without depending solely on the church. And so one of the observations out of that during that period of time is that the church had a very, very small idea and vision for what books could do. Today, we can see how books are an ally to discipleship and growth and sanctification. Books are really, really important in the life of a Christ follower. It's a way to learn about God's creation. It's a way to read God's word. There's so many applications of print that we know of today. But back then, when print was novel and unknown, the power of a book was really wildly speculated on. And a lot of people feared change, and a lot of people thought that it would corrupt societies. And so that's a fascinating thing to study in history. The reason why that's relevant today is because a new medium is now coming into fruition. When we think about the next network revolution, we're moving from Web 1.0 to 2.0 to now Web 3.0, which will incorporate advancements in AI. It'll incorporate blockchain. These things have a similar mechanism of decentralizing power, cutting out the proverbial middlemen of the institutions and the infrastructures that we have today. And that will also have a shifting effect in our culture, in our kind of like our global way of operating things. And certainly it'll have an effect about how the church will do church and ministry. So that's why I'm interested in this social phenomenon. And at the end of the day, the conclusion is, well, we think on the outside life is the same, but when you drastically change how people connect and talk to one another and do dealings and do commerce, we realize that there's a potential to resist and try to undermine these unstoppable forces of technology, and then ultimately turn into what the Catholic Church did in the 1500s, censoring books, burning books, and persecuting people who advocated for the use of the technology. So that's kind of what the inevitable church is all about. It's in the name. It's this idea that the future church will be sustained. What it looks like is some of it is revealing itself right now, and some of it is still a mystery. But what is true is that the church will be there. And the question is, for Christ followers of this generation, of my generation, how are we going to hold up the mantle? How are we going to be torchbearers and carry the truth of the gospel into the next generation? It will happen. It'll happen whether we are faithful or disobedient. But the vision of the inevitable church is that we are faithful, we are humble, we are casting off the things that might have been successful in the past in order to continue to be salt and light and to be effective ministers of the gospel into the future. And so that is a really cool but difficult vision to actualize, right? It's asking churches to consider what has worked in the past might not work anymore. It's asking the church to reconsider the use of technology and the opportunities that it brings, that it doesn't undermine faith development, it doesn't undermine spirituality, and it certainly doesn't usurp Jesus as the king and the high priest of our lives. And so to do that, we need to start talking about these ideas and reframing them in a positive light. A lot of the conversations and the literature that has come out has noticed the obvious, that our mental health has decreased, our anxiety has increased, we're dealing with depression, addiction, all manners of issues when it comes to what the internet has given us the ability to do. Certainly, there's a lot more. Certainly, there's a lot more dialogue that needs to happen when it comes to those concerns. But I've heard far less narratives that tell us that we need to investigate these things even more and become pioneers in some ways. Again, the church has been pioneers at different points in church history. Why not now, during a period of time where, man, everything is going to change? Technology is going to equalize a lot of power dynamics that we see in our infrastructures. It's going to create new opportunities for institutions and organizations and churches to serve and be faithful. And so let's see how that is going to happen, and then ultimately take part in it, so that ultimately we have a voice and we have a way to steer it towards doing good and bringing renewal and redemption into the world. That's the ultimate vision of the inevitable church. And that's kind of where my NPO has come from. And so that's all I really wanted to share in this vlog. I'm really excited for the weeks ahead. I'm logging the hours and they're piling up already, but it's very, very fun. It's exciting. It's motivating me to continue to move towards the end of 2021 and get ready for graduation. But what I love about this project is that it's a passion of mine. It's going to live beyond just the program. It's going to be a part of how I do ministry in the future. And this overall endeavor of making videos here on YouTube is, I think, one of the models that I want to introduce to other people. How to make content just from a solo operator, individual point of view, and how can we create disciples that have a voice, that speak their truth, and ultimately make much of Jesus. That's what I'm thinking about as I model this here right now. So thanks for listening. Excited for vlog number 3. Excited for the couple of videos that I'm creating right now. I'll see you in the next vlog. Hope you are well. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.